As you can see in fact sample 1, Mary has good intentions and she wants to follow through and make good on what it is that she owes to the IRS. But, like many other taxpayers, there are other things in life, and sometimes they have a tendency to throw you off track. And if that should happen and you miss deadlines, like Mary missed, you don't pay attention to the deadlines and the ever increasing and escalating threats in the letters that the IRS sends, you're going to miss deadlines. And unfortunately, Mary, like many other taxpayers, find out the hard way in that the IRS issues levies against either wages or bank assets or other assets in third parties' control. When that happens, the whole world lights up. And yet, it can only happen after specific things are satisfied by the IRS, and those things are set up in the law. The IRS must send certain types of notices in a sequence before it can issue a levy against a taxpayer's wages or bank assets, etc. And there's an exception to that. If the IRS thinks that you're a fraud or if you're hiding assets, it doesn't have to follow those ever escalating threats and eventually have to file and serve on you what's referred to as a final notice, your right to elect a hearing. That final letter is usually sent certified mail. So its importance is concrete and clear. And the title itself says final notice, your right to a hearing. The type of hearing they're talking about there is a collection due process appeal hearing. And that type of hearing is administered, meaning that there's a type of judge that participates in hearing a taxpayer's needs and claims and defenses, and that person is separate from the IRS. They're independent of the collection arm of the IRS. They're independent of all those demand letters. And they're there to hear what you have to say and what needs you have and what the law requires that the IRS recognize as being your rights. But if you don't get that letter, you don't know that the IRS is going to levy. In fact, you have a right to assume that it won't. If the IRS doesn't send that letter and levies anyway, the levy is inappropriate, meaning it's not legal, meaning it's illegal, and it has to be stopped, and money cannot be collected. So you have to look into the history of the letters that you've received if a levy is issued against you. I'm certain it's going to be a surprise. And you have to ask the question, is it appropriate? Now, if you look at our downloaded material on beat IRS levies and IRS levy threats, and I'm looking at page 15 and 16 of that material, you'll find a list of 17 different circumstances that commonly generate illegal IRS levies. And going back to our facts setting, you can find Mary making a telephone call to the IRS and working her way through the reality that a final notice hadn't issued and that the IRS levy is improper. Once the levy is released, she'll be given the time that she needs to get her thoughts and her other business actions back on track so that she can accomplish what she thinks is necessary for her, and she can do it within the time that she's going to now have, and she can satisfy things comfortably rather than under the destructive experience of being wage levied or bank levied. And those are truly destructive experiences. So, don't automatically assume that the IRS levy is legal. And study also that part of our Beat IRS levies and IRS levy threats that presents to you those letters that the IRS must send to you before it has a right to legally levy your assets or your wages. And that concludes Fact Sample 1 to beat IRS levies and IRS levy threats.